As promised, we did return to the Disney Wish. I know only just a couple weeks after our first cruise, but we went back on the Disney Wish. This time I took Eric Morton, and it's time for another honest review of the Disney Wish. Okay, so Eric, you ended up coming on the cruise with me on very short notice.
Extremely short
The other
notice.
person I was supposed to go with had some complications.
I love knowing I was the first choice.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, Eric, you weren't.
Okay.
But you were second string, and that worked. The quarterback got hurt, and you got called in. So
Right.
Give people your. I talked about how I've only been on 2 cruises. They're both post COVID. I went on both of them last year on the Dream and the Fantasy. Tell people a little bit about you. Have a very different cruise experience from me.
Well, it starts with about a year and a half of sea time when I was in the Marine Corps.
Well, I meant Disney cruise.
This is my 5th, so now I am gold. Castaway Club gold.
Very fancy.
However, the bulk of my cruises before have been like 7-night, right? And
Yeah.
mostly on the Magic. I've also been on a Dream. I've been on the Wonder for reasons other than cruising, but I'm familiar with it.
Won't talk about.
We won't talk about that. But this is the largest, obviously, ship I've been on. I've not been on the Fantasy. So, before I'd been on a 7-night Western Caribbean, I think a 4-night Eastern Caribbean. I know there was a 7-night Norway. And some other Caribbean one. I know I've done a Halloween, a Christmas, and a regular Caribbean cruise, and the Norway cruise. I don't know how many days all of them are. I know they were all more than 3 nights, though. Yeah. I'll tell you that.
So my experience, I did the 3-night on the Dream, which was the second cruise when they returned post-COVID. I did a 4-night on the Fantasy the next month in September, which was a Halloween on the high seas. And then my third was the Disney Wish, like 3 weeks ago when we did the 3-night, and now another 3-night. So I've never done any of these lengthy ones like you have. So maybe that'll bring an interesting perspective to these current 3- and 4-night sailings, which is the only thing they're doing on the Wish currently, as it is the new ship.
That's always what happens to the new guy, right? Yeah. They beat him to death doing churn and burn 3- and 4-night cruise. They get to go to Nassau. You have to go to Nassau like 1,000 times before you get promoted to a better itinerary.
People want to see it, right? I mean, it's a brand new ship, and it's. Can we churn through as many people who just want to see the ship? Then when it's less about seeing the ship, then I think you can get into, the longer trips, right?
We'll probably get into this, but I think that is one of the interesting things about this ship because there's so much to do, but it's doing so many 3 nights that you're not having days at sea to do them. So a lot of the space on the 3-night itinerary gets, a lot of the space and venues are kind of a waste, right? So you have this massive ship, all these people, tons of stuff to do, and most of it's closed 18 hours a day.
That's what I liked about doing those 3 and 4 nights last year. Also, the great thing was it was double Castaway, right?
Right.
So, you could miss a Castaway day. We didn't. I mean, we just really loved going to Castaway. But it felt like there was plenty of time to explore those ships. I think, again, a lot of your clientele right now are people who have cruised with Disney before, right? So it is about seeing the ship. So I think we saw people going back. I thought we were the only people that were going to be going back from Castaway. We went back pretty early because we had stuff we wanted to film and such. But lots of people were going back at like 11:30, 12 o'clock to the ship. And I was like, wow, people are, all right, we got stuff on the ship we want to do.
Yeah, I think it's also worth pointing out that because this is the new ship everyone wants to be on, but it's only doing short cruises, there's a ton of back-to-back people, right? Because if you're local like we are, it's not a big deal to jet out there for a 3-night cruise or a 4-night cruise. But if you're putting a great deal of time and expense into flying across the country or even from another country to be here, you're not getting enough for you, right? 3 nights is not enough for your time, maybe 4. So there's a lot of these back-to-back people. So I'm guessing a lot of people have been on 2 Wish voyages at this point.
It's a decent financial investment for them to get to Port Canaveral too, right? That they don't have cars, so either you're renting a car or you're getting a car service or whatever. And I know because I've had to do the car service. My mother has a scooter, and so we needed it doesn't fit in my car, so we needed the car service.
Too much merch.
Costs a bit of my merchandise, I use the scooter as an excuse, and then I haul back 25 giant Diet Coke cans, of course, or Coke Zero, excuse me. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is what is a 3-night compared to a 7-night? What I know you're obviously a big fan of your longer cruises. This was weird for you, and
this is interesting because I talked to one of the servers a long time ago, maybe my first Disney cruise, and it was a 7-night, and he said, I love this 7-night itineraries. That's one of the reasons. It was on the Magic, and he's like, I love the Magic. Because it's a 7-night cruise. He's like, because if you're doing 3-night, it's like there's a dinner to introduce yourself to people. The second night they go to Palo. The third night is farewell, right? Yeah. You don't have that kind of connection that I know on a 7-night cruise. You have a connection with your servers, right? You have this kind of rapport. They would bring my drink to me, without me ordering it because they knew that was what I was going to get. They were by night 3, they know what I like and what I don't like. And so I think you do miss a little bit of that. There's a lot of...
My first one, we did Remy and Palo.
Yeah.
We didn't see the server until the last night of the cruise.
Oh, that's terrible.
Which I felt bad. He's like, how nice of you to show up. And we just started laughing.
But but I mean, that's a concern, right? If you want to do these things, and if you want days at sea, which for me, the best days on a Disney cruise are the days spent at sea. Everything's, more stuff is open. There's more to do. You can kind of slow down too, right? You can go to your room and read a book for a while on your veranda. Also, this was my first cruise without a veranda or at least a window. So this was inside stateroom, different experience, right? Don't spend a lot of time in a room.
Yeah.
Because there's just not that much oxygen.
Who wants to? I mean, there's no windows. I mean, it's weird. I've never stayed in a room with no windows. It was interesting. I get it, right? The whole idea of it is I want to get on this cruise one way or another. Either that's all that's left that's available, or it's the cheapest option. Yeah. And so, I get it. It is weird though. Like, I feel like, and we were talking to other people on our cruise, and it was this whole thing of like, well, we're so afraid we're going to miss something that we just kept waking up every hour in the morning because we didn't know what time it was. You'd wake up and it would be as dark at
sensory deprivation.
At 3 a.m. in the morning as it was at 8 a.m. in the morning because you're just in this completely sealed room. You have no idea of time.
Also, maybe this is great, like nautical engineering. I didn't feel the ship move hardly at all on this one. So you really have no idea, are we in port?
Yeah.
Have we stopped? Are we going fast? Are we going slow?
There was one.
There was one when the pilot's bringing you in and you're nudging up against dock. We felt that, but I know a lot of cruises I've been on before in the Caribbean. The last night you feel a lot of movement. Like I think I was told it has something to do with the Gulf Stream. Right? There's a little bit more of that. Movement with the ship. I didn't feel anything.
No, only whatever that was. I think when we docked in Nassau. And we were at the absolute front. So we were stateroom 9,000, which is deck 9.
Look on the deck plan.
All the way, we are the front corner of the ship.
We're directly under the bridge wing. Yeah. Like we are right there. They couldn't cut a window for us. Would have been nice. But you're right there. Yeah. All the way to the front. It's kind of.
It is weird to be an inside stateroom that was on the outside.
Right, you're on the outboard side of the ship, but it's an inside stateroom.
Funny.
Yeah.
The room was cute enough. There was enough art and it had enough personality. Like, again, I don't want to spend a lot of time in it because there's no windows, but
I felt like it's a step down. Like I felt it wasn't quite as stylish as some that I've been in before. I felt there's a little more Spartan. The only clue that it's a Disney cruise was 2 prints of Tiana. And those little things they put over your glasses, your cups, like with the DCL logo. Other than that, there's no, as far as I know, they weren't handing out the Navigator anymore.
No, Navigator's done.
Right, so you're all in your app, which is an imperfect app we could probably talk about later. But
I think at this point, a lot of people have seen it. I know it's been a hot minute since you cruised with Disney. The app's been a thing for a minute now. It's not amazing.
But for
it's
this
gotten
ship,
better for sure.
But for this ship, there were lounges that were not listed in the app. There were things going on, activities that were not listed in the app. Right.
We had those problems last year too. I know there's been enough complaints about the Navigator app. It definitely is better now. But even on our first cruise, posted hours for bars were wrong. So on the last night, it's like 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, and we're like, well, where can we go have like a last drink? And we're looking in the thing, and it says Keg and Compass closes at 10 p.m. And we walk by Keg and Compass, and it says midnight. We're like, oh, well, that was wrong. We can still go here.
Yeah, that happened a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
Hook's Barbary was not listed, right? And
It's the best kept secret.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's intentionally not
I
listed.
think so, because it's very small to begin with. But let's talk about things I did not do on the first cruise or any cruise to this point were spa experiences. And I know, like, before we got on the cruise, I talked to Eric. Eric kept hinting. He's like, the Hook's Barbary would be kind of fun. We should do that. So in order to book that so late in the game, you have to go to the desk at the entrance of Senses Spa, which is, I think it's deck 5. And you go down. It's all the way at the forward. And you go there to the desk, and they're like, and at this point, as soon as you get on the ship, you can book whatever's available. And so we booked Hook's Barbary, which you wanted to do, and then you're like, what if we got pedicures? I was like, I've never had a pedicure in my life. Eric's like, oh, you got to do it. And I was like, all right, do you have openings? And they're like, yeah, we do. Which is, again, it's amazing how much the crowd has shifted in just a few weeks' time. Because 3 weeks ago, those first few hours on the ship were kind of a nightmare if you didn't have stuff booked, because you had to wait in line to get Star Wars Hyperspace Lounge. Then if you wanted to fix a dining reservation, or you wanted to try and get on a wait list for Parlay or Enchante, you had to go do that. And then you had to go to Senses and book your experience. And a lot of stuff was full. Like, I remember we really had a fight for, my mother wanted to get something done at the Untangled Salon, and it was a real fight to get that booked. In Hyperspace Lounge, we almost didn't get in. And so what was funny now is, without much fanfare, I'm going to backtrack for a minute since we talked about it real quick. Hyperspace Lounge has moved to in-app booking, and they have not really advertised this for anyone. And the amazing thing is you don't have to wait to get on board to book it. Once you catch the Wi-Fi, your Navigator app starts working, and you can log in with your stateroom number and all that, and book Hyperspace Lounge, and that's what I suggest you do. I booked it before we were even in the building in Port Canaveral. So that would be my suggestion, even if your arrival time isn't until later. Show up a little early, maybe. Yeah. Just catch the if it's that important to you, because I will tell you what happens after it books up in the app. Then they still do the physical line at Luna.
It looked really bad.
Which at that point it was like, we don't really have anything, and people are just kind of sitting there grimacing with the cast member, like, you mean I can't get into this bar? I paid to come on this ship. This is just a bar. This isn't an add-on restaurant. I didn't think I needed a reservation for this, and that's all fair, completely valid point. But you being WDWNT viewers, you want to make sure you know that you can avoid that, and you should avoid it if you need to see Hyperspace. That being said, I reviewed Hyperspace on the last one. I want to get a second opinion on Hyperspace.
Oh, we're going straight into Hyperspace?
Let's just do Hyperspace, because we're talking about things that we booked as
I
soon
would
as
say,
we got on
like,
the show.
I'm a Star Wars person, right?
Yeah.
I look forward to it. I was a little underwhelmed. I thought the panoramic screen was cool, a cool novelty. I didn't feel like I was in Star Wars. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. The drink menu was not great. I had heard some bad things about a number of the drinks.
No.
The beer, they only had one beer. There was a Harvest something sour.
There's two that are specific to the bar.
And so sours aren't my thing, and this one was particularly sour.
Yeah.
And it's in a drinking vessel that can't describe. It had a stem, like a wine glass, but it's huge. Most places you go where there's a sour, like Ellipsis Brewing here in Orlando, like a sour is served in a smaller glass, right? This was a lot of sour to try to choke down.
What's funny about this, what other place did I say this for? It might have been an Oga's Cantina thing, but I like the Oga's menu better. There was a point I made at which I was like, so many people want to go to this bar that I think Disney was like, it doesn't even matter what the drinks are. What if it's like a joke? We just put together some really bad cocktails and then just see if people will drink them. And that's kind of how I felt again with Hyperspace was it's like, it doesn't matter. People just want to sit there. Let's just throw whatever together. It's fine.
There's I wasn't super giddy going in there like you would think I should be. And I think there are a number of reasons why. One is it's just right off a main passageway. So you're walking down a main passageway, and there's Bayou and whatever. Nightingales, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's Hyperspace Lounge.
Just this little
it's just kind of
circular
sitting
doorway.
there. I kind of would have appreciated if it was a little bit more like tucked away somewhere, I think.
It felt like the like main creative people involved in the Wish were like, we're building the Fantasyland ship. This one's about enchantment, and it's going to have, you know, all these elegant places and blah, blah, blah. And then Bob Iger came in and was like, I bought Star Wars. We need Star Wars. They're like, Bob, it's the enchantment. Star Wars. And they're like, all right.
I don't think it's worth driving yourself crazy over getting that reservation.
But understandably, like, we
You
can't
want to do
talk
it just to
people
say
into
you did
not
it.
wanting to see it, right?
You want to do it just to say you did it.
Yeah.
But once I went in there, after 10 minutes, I was kind of like, okay, like, I'm ready to
But if
go.
you're going
I
on
want
the
to see
Wish-
all the ships.
Yeah.
I want to see, I don't know how many scenes there are, 5, 6.
Well, in our Easter eggs video, we talk about every ship and every scene you can watch.
Yeah, well, you have to check that out.
Will.
But I enjoyed it. I think it was cool.
Yeah.
It just didn't really give me that, like, warm Star Wars feel.
But again, if you're watching this, right, like the fun of going on a new ship is exploring all the spaces, right?
Right.
So regardless if Hyperspace Lounge is or isn't something you're excited about, you want to have the option to visit all the bar spaces, right? Like that for me was one of the coolest things about going on the Dream of the Fantasy was just exploring the bar space. I did very little research in advance. It was just fun to kind of walk around, explore, and look. And you were able to pop into the spaces. There was never a case of like, oh, you had to get a reservation on day one. Sorry. So like to have the option to pop into them is you know, it's a thing you expect, and it's a nice thing.
And with that exploration, also is kind of like the reveal. You walk in and there's the whole bar. Like boom, I see it's a very small room, probably 25 seats, 30 seats maybe, and you walk in and you see everything. Yeah. It's kind of like if you watch our stateroom video, right? You walk into the inside stateroom. There's the whole thing.
They had a window though.
Yeah. So
it was fake, but they had one.
So I'd love to have a corner that you got to turn a corner or something, and it just felt like the whole reveal was all at once, and then you're like, okay, well I get it, right? I can see everything now.
It feels like it was an afterthought. It just feels like it was an afterthought. Like it wasn't. It was like we've done Skyline Bar before on the ship. We've done it in Paris now. Let's just do a Star Wars one, and it just cut and paste, and it's not a wildly interesting interior, and I don't know. Coming off like I said on the last review, Sublight Lounge on the Star Cruiser is my favorite Star Wars bar, and Oga's Cantina is no slouch either. I like Oga's. It's kind of a pain to get to, but Oga's is fun. This one it's the third best Star Wars bar they've built so far of the 3 Star Wars bars they've built.
I just feel like Star Wars is one of those things where if you're going to do it, you got to go all in.
Yeah.
And they kind of dedicated a very small space to it, right? Yeah. There are places that are, like I said, that are closed 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day that are bigger that they probably could have used for this. So
yeah, weird use of space, the reoccurring theme of the Wish. But let's go back to I didn't mean to sidetrack us, but I figured that was a good point since we were talking about all the things we had to book when we got on the ship. Let's talk about the salon experiences. So they broke out. Those things used to be incenses, the barber shop, et cetera. And now they've broken those off into their own spaces. Obviously now more people know about it because they walk by them. They're visible now to everyone. So everyone's aware. And so they're quite popular. So we booked Hook's Barbery, and we booked the Fire and Ice pedicure for Untangled. Let's start with Hook's Barbery.
Okay, so we both went in and got haircuts, like a luxury shave that included sort of like a pretty elaborate facial thing. And I will say, it was fantastic. It was very relaxing. I did fall asleep. They put a mask on me. They covered my beard and everything in some mask. I don't know. But I'm just about to fall asleep, and every 5 minutes, someone walks in going, how do I make a reservation?
Yeah.
Confused guests, because these are rolled into senses, but they're not in senses. So they're having to tell people, no, you got to go
every 3
up a
seconds,
deck
like,
and forward
you have to go
500
to
feet
senses
to book. So that was a little...
Or if not, people are asking about the bar, because again, the bar thing, we had the same thing where, like, listen, they sent the media on that media cruise. And at that point, that's how you sort of inform the public of things. But everyone was wrong about everything related to Hook's Barbery, in that they're like, anytime you come in and get a service and a cocktail, it's like, no, the bar actually operates from 5 to 8, and that's when it operates, and that's it.
Right. Very small, and they're not bar seats. They're just like seats where you would be waiting to get your hair cut. And there's a person that shows up there, very skilled.
Scottish gentleman.
Yeah, Scottish gentleman. It's just like bifold doors, like your closets at home, right? And you open it up, and there are kind of basic bourbons, whiskeys, and scotches and ryes. Then there's some little more elevated stuff. Then there's like the rarefied air, right? Like they have Pappy Van Winkle 23 year, which is, I didn't ask what it was there, but other places it's on the menu at $400 an ounce.
I would assume it's the same across
So
the
I assume it is. And the interesting thing then is I got an old fashioned with Woodford Double Oaked, which is, I think, about $60, $65 a bottle. And it was much more expensive than if you got Blanton's, which is in the same neighborhood and much harder to find. Yeah. Disney has no trouble finding Blanton's for the Wish. Yeah. They had a lot of the, some harder to find bourbons in there.
Some Japanese whiskey.
The guy did a great job. They had it's like a build your own old fashioned, right? Yeah. So you start with like 5 or 6 different flavors of simple syrup, and then 2 or 3 bitters, and then different kinds of sugar that you want, and what kind of bourbon, and he makes recommendations, and then he puts them in a smoking device and smokes them. Very nice. It was really great. And within 5 minutes of us getting our drinks, there's a line of like 10 people in this place trying to figure out, is this, number one, do I have to get my hair cut here to have a drink here? Yeah. Which the answer is no.
Which no one knows, but no one knows it. It's so poorly advertised. Yeah.
I mean, I like that it's like a if you know type of thing, but it seemed like it's not intended to be that. I think it's just kind of a communication they haven't worked out yet, right? A way to inform people how this thing is set up. So then there's all of a sudden a lot of people in there. Yeah. And I'm sure that if I had been in the chair at that point trying to get a relaxing treatment, I would have been a little
I don't think that's the time to get a service. I think we ended up, not by choice, but I think we ended up with the absolute perfect experience, which was what our service was 3 o'clock?
3 o'clock. We were done at 3:45 or something.
We were done at 4:45, and the bar opens at 5. So we just had seats by the bar. He's already setting up. And we rope dropped the bar.
Rope dropped the bar.
And what's great, I like sitting there and having the drink because all sorts of interesting people come through and they have all sorts of interesting tastes and conversations with the bartender about making the old fashioned and such. And I'm just fascinated by what people choose or their interests, or everyone's got their own interesting backstory in there. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a cool hangout spot for the 20, 30 minutes you're enjoying the cocktail. It's fun to sit there and take that in. And then at that point, I'm usually ready to, I'm like, okay, it's enough.
It's in a rather high traffic area too, because people are, if they're going to the Worlds of Marvel dinner.
It's right there.
They walk past, half of them probably walk past that.
And Arundel only enters 1 floor up. And again, that you're around the time where people are starting to head, to the main spaces on the ship for
Get there early, rope drop it.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
Be there before 5. I would say if you could be there 5-10 minutes before 5 o'clock, you should be there. That's my second favorite bar on the ship, is Hook's Barbary. I think it's
same.
Fun. Yeah.
I think we both have the same favorite too.
We do. We'll talk about
it later, but
because that was not something I expected, but we went there and it was amazing. Let's talk about. So we got the one thing that bothered me is they didn't use a straight razor.
You're on a seagoing vessel. I think that is. I think safety wise, they're just like, you know what?
I'm paying a premium for a shave, though. I mean,
yeah.
I would have liked a straight razor. That would have. So at Disneyland Paris on Main Street, they still have a barber shop, and the guy who's there is, I forget if he's 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation, whatever he is, Italian barber. He's the real deal, and also. The space, because Disneyland Paris had no budgetary constraints. You're sitting in a real chair from like the 1800s, surrounded by all this real propping. Like you are having a legitimate like early 1900s shaving experience at that barbershop. And it cost considerably less than this experience did. So I was a little bummed by that. That being said, I thought the cast members we had were great. And they did a good job. Yeah. And it was a relaxing, enjoyable experience. It just wasn't as... What's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't
that old school, old fashioned, like where they get out the strap of leather and the straight razor and lather you up, right?
The venue feels like that, right? And it's an elaborate venue where it feels like that's what what should be happening, not like I'm going to the Art of Shaving at Disney Springs.
It should
right?
be mentioned also, we did this before the ship ever left port, so they probably could have used a straight razor if they wanted to.
They could have.
We're still tied to the
They're just
pier
not,
at this
because
point.
maybe someone on a test cruise, like, ended up like the Headless Horseman or something.
Probably just a bad idea to have, like, edged weapons in a seagoing vessel.
Yeah, maybe. But either way, it's valuable information. Someone may be upset by that, so it's worth stating. So then the adventure you took me on was the next day we did the Untangled Salon. I have never had manicure, pedicure, any of those things done before.
I started doing it a few years ago. My knees are bad. I do a terrible job of cutting my toenails.
Yeah.
I don't want to make my girlfriend cut my toenails. She doesn't want any of that. So I'll go with her sometimes and get one. Once every couple months, I might go get one. And it's a very relaxing thing to do. They massage your legs and your feet, and you feel good. And they all that kind of stuff. So I thought that's something you need to try. I didn't feel like the Untangled Salon I think the person did an adequate job. They did what they were supposed to do. I felt like it was the fire and ice. I felt like it didn't. I don't feel like I got money's worth as much as you would even here in Orlando, getting that done. It was nice. I felt like I don't think it was consistent. I think yours looked what they were doing to you looked a little different than what they were doing to me, and yet we bought the same thing. So
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. It was fine. I don't have any complaints. I really enjoyed the people that we were there doing it, and we had a good time, and they did a good job. I just felt like maybe that treatment could use a little bit of a glow up. Yeah.
I also had for $15 I added the hand thing.
There was a hand thing?
Yeah, you could check those when they gave you the sheet. When
you got done before me. So
they took me over to the pedicure station or the manicure station. And then I had whatever the exfoliating thing they did on my feet, they also did on my hands.
Okay.
My hands are very, my feet felt nice and smooth. It was nice. But I agree with you. I was like, I feel like I've watched people get pedicures that were more than that. And so I think I probably expected more than we got. That being said, if you have rougher feet, you're probably there longer than we were and are getting more of your money's worth. Because she filed my feet and was like, "Oh, you're easy. You're done." I was like, "All right."
They get the cheese grater out and all the power tools, but
I'm sure they've seen worse.
Yeah. So I mean, they also offer on paper the Fire and Ice pedicure at Hook's Barbery.
Yeah.
I did not see enough cast members working there that they could have done the two haircuts and the pedicure at the same time. So they do have a little tucked behind there. They do have a little foot tub.
I think they're trying
whatever
to,
the thing is.
I know people have gotten it done there, but I think they're trying to push people to Untangled. It's also very clear at this point that they are still understaffed. At the spa facilities that was talked about on the earlier cruises. And based on the fact that we saw so many earning my ears people in the salon and the barbery this time, I assume they are still struggling to fill those jobs. So they're not at full capacity at those spaces yet. But I enjoyed both.
Yeah.
They're fun. They're fun spaces to hang out in. Hook's Barbery has that sea shanty loop that's fun to listen to.
Leave it to Tom. He immediately was like, "Oh, Hook's Barbery. Their loop goes on for a long time. The Untangled one has already restarted."
Music's my thing,
he
man.
knew.
That's
He's like,
always.
their loop is too short.
I can spend. People are like, "You spent an hour and 20. How full of yourself are you? You spent an hour and 23 minutes talking about The Wish." I was like, "Are you a real Disney fan?" Because real Disney fans, we want to talk about the minutia of the themed environment, and background music gets into that, right? We can talk about how the 1923 loop is just the Carthay Circle restaurant loop. We can talk about how Untangled Salon has a great loop of instrumental versions of Princess songs. It's not very long though. But Hook's Barbery has that nondescript sea shanty loop, which even if it repeated, I wouldn't know because they all sound the same.
It's probably what
But
Captain Hook has on his iPod, right?
On his Zune.
On his
He's
Zune,
like Peter Quill. That someone gave him a Zune.
Love. A lot of people don't know he has a needle in his hook and he plays it on a record player at night.
Oh my God. This is why we don't do reviews with two people. Get sidetracked. Okay, so we talked about our salon experience. What do you want? Do you want to quickly talk? Second, I already talked about the dining rotation on my review. Do you want to quickly any thoughts you have real quick on those three restaurants?
Okay, so first we had lunch. We had a sit-down lunch at 1923.
So until
we
2
boarded.
o'clock on day one, they do offer a sit-down lunch at 23. If not, throughout that period and beyond, there is the buffet at Marceline Market.
So we were 1923, but our dinner that night was at the Roy Disney side of 1923. So we ate lunch at Walt Disney side.
Yeah, you can go into either at lunch.
It was good. It did say it was a sirloin on the menu, and they gave me prime rib. Not a great prime rib, but I mean, I thought it was a perfectly adequate lunch.
You kept getting different cuts of steak than what you ordered. Didn't it happen again?
Yeah, there was a ribeye at one of the dinners that was clearly prime rib too. I mean, ribeye, prime rib. Some people would say they're from the same region.
Yeah, but that first steak, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right?
But I enjoyed it, and we had good service there.
Yeah, I liked lunch.
Dinner at 1923 was the best steak that I had, which was
the
a filet,
right?
but it was like a peppered filet. It had really good seasoning. I thought it was the best cut of meat that I had on the ship, right? That was very nice.
You had all 3 of the sundaes.
Yeah.
You were in a real ice cream mood this week.
I was in an ice cream mood.
So every sit-down restaurant in the rotation has a sundae, a unique ice cream sundae that Eric enjoyed.
They look bigger than they are. They're really only one scoop of ice cream, right?
I do like that 1923 one. It's classic, just hot fudge.
Yeah, I like it.
It's nothing. It feels proper in that.
1923, you've described it well. It's kind of like Carthay Circle or Brown Derby, that type of feel, right?
That kind of cuisine, too, because it's California style in preparation and presentation. So, yeah. There are some things like the corn soup. Some of those things remind me of dishes from the past at both of those restaurants quite a bit. And again, if you want to get in depth with these 3 restaurants, we have reviews up at the site. You can really go item by item and find out what you want to order.
Worlds of Marvel was our second dinner. And I had heard a lot of pretty negative stuff about it. I thought the look and feel of the place was really cool. Yes, it has a lot of screens. There's a lot of cool indirect lighting and like backlit stuff and a lot of features that I think are cool looking.
Yeah.
In fact, it's so much it's really hard to take it in, right? It's just kind of like if you ask me what was, I'm like, I don't know. It was just a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
It was cool. And most of the food was good there, but the steak there was
See, most of the food was good.
I thought it was fine. For cruise line, there are people that think like, oh, I go on a cruise to eat well, and I've never been on a cruise where I was like, man, the food killed it every single night. You're always going to have hits and misses, right?
That was the biggest disappointment when
They're
we first
cooking
did the
for
cruise.
thousands of people.
People went on and on about the food, and then we got on the cruise. I was like, wow, the regular food, not at Remy or Palo, is terrible. Like people had talked it up so much, and then forget the Castaway food because the food at Castaway is inedible, absolutely inedible. So I thought, honestly, like Arendelle and 1923 are probably my 2 favorite rotation restaurants of the 9 on the cruise line I've been to.
I agree. And on the Worlds of Marvel, I pointed it out to you. I got a ribeye. Yes, I ate a lot of steak.
Yeah.
It was like a boot leather cut, way overcooked.
Yeah.
And I looked at some of the people at our table, and theirs was twice as thick and was actually cooked properly. I don't know if it was good, but it looked like it was cooked properly. It was bigger than mine. I was a little jealous, right? But
at best, it was okay. Like we had a well prepared one on the first cruise, and it was okay. I got the chicken schnitzel thing because it was the only safe thing I remembered from the first time we went, so I had that again.
Yeah, the dinner itself, the event itself, the entertainment.
Yeah,
I think kids will find it to be a lot of fun. You push a button.
So like the film, like we said in the last review, the film is incredibly well written. So if I watch it on Disney Plus, super entertaining. Do I want to watch that while I eat dinner on a cruise ship? Probably not.
Yeah. I don't know.
The souvenir cup game is unrivaled. So you remember I had the quantum core sipper before, but now we've got the Wakandan Coke Zero that's been blown up by PIM particles. Look, you got the disc. You got to attach the disc to it. There you go.
You had to fight for that too. They brought you the.
They brought me the other one by accident. I was like, no,
thing.
sir, don't be ridiculous. I have that one at home. Please bring me the oversized Coke Zero can, please. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun.
Arendelle was the best of the 3 standard dining rotation restaurants. I thought, although I think the steak at 1923 is better. Arendelle, the entertainment was fantastic. Yeah. really pretty bad seats.
Almost the worst, but there were families with kids. I felt really bad for who were further back than we were somehow.
So we were very far. It's all the way aft. We're almost up against the aft windows, right? Right above where Rapunzel is painting the ship.
Yes.
And but the performers were fantastic.
Yeah.
They were fantastic. People really got into it.
Yeah.
The talent on the ship overall was very, very good.
Something I think that's been said by a number of people, and I agree with. I think the talent on the boat exceeds the boat. I think their entertainment people from top to bottom are too talented to be on this ship. Is how I felt time and time again. Like I'm like, these people are too talented to be on this kid boat. Like this is not the place for them. Which I think they make the cruise experience. I think all the talent on the ship makes the cruise experience.
Are you okay with moving now into entertainment a little bit?
We should, based on that transition from Arendelle, because again, I think that was the thing that stuck out. So the main reason I wanted to go back so soon was so many people kept asking in the other reviews, did you see the shows? Did you see the shows? We didn't see the shows because there wasn't time. So this time we made a point to go see both shows, which are Seize the Adventure and The Little Mermaid, which The Little Mermaid might be the case of a show that is saved purely by how wildly talented the people in it are, which is not a thing I've ever talked about in themed entertainment, because usually those two things don't coalesce. You usually don't get super talented people and put them in what turns out is not an amazing show. But they made it, right?
The performers were fantastic. And we left was it Seize the Adventure? Is that what it's called? And it's a character show, right?
But it's a great
but it's really,
show.
really well done. The kids loved it. The performers were fantastic. You have
you don't
medleys
compare
with all the
that.
princesses singing.
You don't compare that to a Broadway show, right? You compare the character show, whether it's Seize the Adventure, and there's some sort of version of something similar on every ship. You compare that to like Mickey's Royal Friendship Fair, the castle stage shows through the years, that kind of stuff. And I felt like if you compare that to or Mickey's Magical Map for the Disneyland people, Mickey and the Magical Map, I think it blew those away. I think it was one of the best character stage shows I've ever seen in a park. That would be a pinnacle event people would need to show up to all the time. It's a great, reminds me of Mickey and the Magician from Paris, which is a character stage show that's just awesome. It has a lot of great effects and really talented people, and this gave me those sort of vibes.
And then they ran Little Mermaid 2 nights in a row.
Which is because they're
kind of in like acceleration
worked
phase,
on the show, and he was like, "Oh yeah, now we have the third show now." So they'd only gotten through so many rehearsals to where they could handle on each cruise one night with 2 shows. They have now reached the point where they've thrown a third show at a weird time. It was like 7 or 7:15 on the middle night of the cruise, yeah, again, like the vocal talent was unbelievable. And then the puppeteers were great. Everyone in it was phenomenal. Dancers, everyone was great.
It was very good. It was very good. And the theater is beautiful.
It's a nice space,
You know, it's well done.
Projection mapping it's one of the better uses of projection mapping.
They really did a good job of marrying physical sets, projection mapping, and like the proscenium, the use of projection mapping on the proscenium and on the actual stage itself, right? So when you go and you sit down, you're waiting for the show to start, there's waves kind of ebbing and flowing out around.
And that's really only for everyone that sits up top, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one at the bottom's really seeing that.
No, I can't say enough about the talent of the people that were on this ship. This is a top-tier group of performers.
Yeah, it's a shame because I like the Little Mermaid show. Is it amazing? No. I think it felt like they went a little cheap on the staging at times, right? So they use like a rock stair, a rock flight of stairs as a boat. And then at the end, they were like, we can't afford to stab Ursula with a boat. We have to do something else. And they're like, Ariel gets the trident. And it's, I don't even feel like I'm spoiling it because you're going to watch that and just be like, oh, that's nothing even happened.
Also,
she literally just goes like this and then it's over. And it's like, that's not what happened. And it's also, even if that's a creative change, It's not an interesting one.
Also, like, you might be expecting Ariel with a tail, wearing a bikini. Not the case. She's wearing pants and a blouse. King Triton, he's walking around tops off.
He's
ready to go.
He's like almost screen accurate, that guy. Yeah. And they picked like a skinny white dude, and so it's not like, I don't know, that's just not it. So the problem is, like, the beard and headdress thing are like real life King Triton size, but they're on a normal man.
A normal human.
So because of that, it just looks, it's this big, and it's walking around with it. And then everyone else looks normal, right? Like Ariel Ursula is just, you know,
costuming
it's a creative
is weird.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
I like the costume. I don't have a problem with the costuming. My only issue was, it's clear they cut some money out of the staging, and that made me sad that there wasn't like this big, in the battle, there wasn't some intricate, cool prop. It was like, no, it's a high school. It gave me high school.
It's a ship, though, Tom. They don't have all this room to store all these giant.
Have you seen
set
the shows
pieces.
on the other ship? They have impressive stuff, or at the least there's some sort of gimmick they come up with that's impressive and works for the changing of scenes. Right. So the most recent Beauty and the Beast show has that whole. I don't know if it's LED or whatever the back wall is made of. And there's just some minor props that switch in and out, but this wall is impressive. And there's no point in Mermaid in which something new was done, right? So, like, again, the thing that saves it is that the talent on the ship is unbelievable, and it made the show. The show itself is not the pinnacle of shows they've done on the cruise. It's kind of a step down from some things they did pre-COVID. And so I hope next time out they do more. And it's weird because the next show that's going to debut on the ship is Aladdin, which has been delayed at this point, which is just a restaging. It's not a new show. They're just making some minor changes to a show that had been at California Adventure for many years and now has been on several of the cruise ships for many years also.
Also, I've mentioned this before. I know, like, on the Magic, when they do the Tangled show, which I saw one of the first voyages the Tangled show was on, they turn O'Gill's pub into the Snuggly Duckling on that night. Yeah. It'd be cool to see them do some kind of integration with that, you know, where it overflows outside of the theater.
I think the problem is, again, the 3-night cruise is so short that they don't even, like, Pirate Night almost isn't a thing compared to what it usually is, right? So, like, when you do the 4-night, Pirate Night is actually a thing. So when we did the fantasy, they actually turned, in our rotation, we were in Animators Palette, and what was awesome was all the screens in Animators Palette turned into, like, sketchbooks of Pirates of the Caribbean concept art, and not just the movies, also the attractions. So all this Mark Davis art is coming up, and the music's Pirates, and it's really cool. This ship does have, I'm still not a big fan of the atrium or the Grand Hall.
No.
But the cool thing is, you saw on Pirate Night that why they made that choice to have a chandelier that's made up of a bunch of LED fixtures and all that kind of stuff. Because when there are special events or special nights, you can really lean into that. And so Pirate Night, the chandelier turned red, and the music's playing in there. And so, like, on the 3-night, they still have all the characters in pirate costumes come out. But the cool thing that the Wish does is that midnight lighting event that happens every night is actually different on Pirate Night. It's sort of this Tinkerbell, Peter Pan pirate motif lighting show with audio where cannonballs shoot across in the lighting. And so that made sense. The only other thing they're doing for Pirate Night, so they have what they call the Rockin' Parlay Party, which is the new version of Pirate Night, which is a live 80s style rock and roll band. Fun, yeah. They're very talented, all very talented, and they play. It's all 80s rock. It works, though. Like, the kids like it, the adults love it. And then Jack Sparrow shows up. And then what I was really, like, obviously you've brought this up before. It is impressive to do fireworks off of a boat, right? But I've been around the world. I've seen Disney fireworks shows of every scale. And, like, after the minute, the shows they were doing last year, after, like, the minute of, like, oh, they're shooting fireworks off the boat. After that minute, I was kind of like, oh, it's kind of repetitive. It's kind of lame. But with this party, what they do is the live band is playing the music for the fireworks show, and it's also like the Hans Zimmer score from Pirates of the Caribbean, which
Yeah.
is the best song to ever do fireworks to. Every show it's ever been in, it's amazing. And I think that really elevated the fireworks show. It's the of the two I've seen, it's the best version of the fireworks show on the Wish, or on the cruise line in general.
Yeah.
Was it better than the ones you had seen in the past? Yeah.
Like, I don't remember. I actually haven't gone out for every single one of them because, like, I know my first experience was the Pirates in the Caribbean. This is 08, 09.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. It's 2011 was my first cruise, and it was pretty. I mean, it was cool they're doing fireworks at sea, but it was. I mean, you understand why they have to tone it down a little bit. We joke.
Oh, it's super complicated. I get it.
We joke that you don't want to be in a on a fishing boat that's sinking and shoot a flare when the Wish is going by, firing off all this stuff, you get ignored. But no, I think it was a lot of fun. It's not too long, right? It's not too short.
Like 15 minutes and then the fireworks start.
Good.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job.
Yes, I would go see it. Even if you've done Pirate Night before, I think it's a nice change. I would check it out. The other thing I dragged you to was I had booked an Enchante just because I didn't get to go on the first cruise. But then again, things have shifted so much that all these bookable experiences were not as in demand this cruise as they had been a couple weeks ago. And so we go to I had to add you. I only had a reservation for one person. So I was like, we'll go add you to the reservation. When we go to add Eric to the reservation, at the end, just by chance, I'm like, do you happen to have availability for brunch or anything else? He's like, we do have brunch available. I was like, we don't have a review of brunch. Let's do brunch. And so we did Enchante Brunch, which I know the most famous review out there right now is Pete Warner, the Diz, where he literally did it at the review at the table, and it did not go well, which I believe because, like I told you last time, I know it's still not published. We're waiting on some thoughts still to come in from a few people that were there. The Enchante dinner they went to was cataclysmically bad.
Right.
So I completely believe Pete that he had a terrible brunch experience. Totally believable. I do believe in that time they've worked on it a bit because I thought what we had was a very, very good brunch experience.
I'm kind of picky. I'm like a meat and potatoes person.
Yeah.
So to go to a restaurant that I've been told is terrible.
I took you outside your comfort zone.
And to give up my ability to pick what I wanted to eat off the menu and totally trust them for like a prefix menu, I was more than a little scared. More than a little apprehensive. And I was pleasantly surprised. In fact, I had heard several of our friends discuss Enchante in a negative light. I had not seen the Pete Werner bit on it yet, but I had heard him say it was a dumpster
until
fire.
I finally watched it,
And I'm not trying to contradict them. I'm sure they had a bad time. I enjoyed it, and I noticed some things that we had that were slight changes from what they had to. So they probably, for instance, maybe the best thing I ate on the ship was the chicken and the 3 pieces of gnocchi for the third or fourth course or whatever that was. And it's only 3 bites of chicken. It was delicious. On theirs, they said, oh, well, it was basically raw chicken. I believe that.
I mean, that's what happens, though, right? You can order the most amazing, pieces of meat, but if you don't cook them right, it's terrible, right? So, that was 3 weeks ago. Your restaurant, you're getting bad reviews, you're going to go back and try to fix that, right? So it happens, right? So I completely believe their review. I also believe that they have been working hard to probably try to fix the service because people are complaining.
Our tomato pie looked way different than theirs too. So
I love the tomato pie.
Also, the thing that we had as an add-on was the champagne flight.
We did the wine flight,
There was a lot of
very good, and I'm not a white wine guy, and I really enjoyed the pairings.
And that lemon, they keep in mind, I'm just
dessert.
like they're just going to be this weird French stuff coming out. They bring out a plate with a lemon on it, and it looks like a real lemon. I'm like, did this dude just bring me a lemon? And
no, so it's a dessert encased in a white chocolate shell that looks just like a lemon. And I'm thinking, so citrus desserts are not my thing. If I'm having dessert, I want a pastry or I want like chocolate. Those are the 2 types of desserts that I like. And so I was like, oh, it's going to be a citrusy dessert. All right. it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was some kind of like lemon puree inside. I don't know,
Yeah.
mousse. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fantastic. But I mean, it looked like a lemon, like even when you got up close to it.
Oh yeah,
It had like the
it was
the kind of
beautifully
the
done.
rind.
It was
like,
gorgeous. It's one of the prettiest desserts I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they've pulled it together. I really want to go back and try Enchante dinner now because I am so curious. If they were working on brunch, I'm sure they've been working on dinner, and I'm just so curious to see. We're gonna give them a couple more months to go back and I know we're gonna publish that review. Have to, we went and it was bad, and it's got to be published. But I'm more than willing to go back next time we're on the boat, and I really would love to try dinner and see if they've pulled it together. Because in 3 weeks, I mean, I've eaten my fair share of French cuisine. Not a lot, but enough. And I think it was a very enjoyable meal. I don't think Pete was served what we were served, because I think if Pete was served what we were served, he wouldn't have been as negative as he was. He still might have been somewhere in the middle, but there's no way. I don't think there's any way.
They had some
anyone would
service
have been that
issues too.
negative.
We had our server. His name was Guillaume, I think.
Yeah.
Very, did a very good job. And in general, I thought it was a very positive experience. And just to clarify, because we're talking about two different things, right? We talked about trying to change our Enchante dinner. We did end up canceling that.
We did.
Not because we had a bad experience, just because logistically we needed to. That was the night of the Frozen dinner.
That was the night of Arendelle, and I had still not seen the Olaf animatronic, which, by the way, in person was super cool. And you'll see, I don't know, we'll drop the little clip in here, but Olaf playing like that guessing game with Oaken in real time, like a live actor talking to the animatronic, and Olaf looks real. He's the right size, and he has all the proper movement. Like that for me is a moment where I looked around at the kids, and the kids like have their mouths hanging open. I was like, this is actual Disney magic, is when you cannot tell the difference between, when technology blurs the line between reality and fantasy is actual Disney magic, I think. And that was one of those moments. But the only thing we couldn't get done on the first day was changing the dining rotation. They were, at Luna, he kind of threw his hands up in the air. He's like, I can try to seat you at Arendelle the second night, but I don't. He's like, you show up late and I'll try to seat you. And I was like, it's not ideal. And so I felt fulfilled because, again, we have an Enchante review that's going to get published. So I felt fulfilled. I was like, we don't have a brunch review. Let's go do the brunch and see how we feel about it. But also we missed it, but they did try to get us into the dessert thing at Enchante as well. Sadly,
we're a little
missed
slow on the
call.
trigger. Yeah.
It was very short notice, and I'd love to try that next time as well. What was fun for me was Benoit, who was in essence our sommelier at brunch, who brought us all of our wines, was also, I believe he was the lead server when I did Remy last year, which is still, for me, was the greatest Disney dining experience of my entire life. So it was great to see him there, and he was fantastic. And like you said, our server was fantastic. Everyone there, the hostesses, and then beyond that, the other reason why we fell in love with that space so much was the Rose, which is the bar. So let's say this. I already told you last time, I'm not wild about the interior. I'm not wild about the design of Palo, the Rose, and Enchante. Those interiors do not do anything for me. That being said, the Rose, as far as a service perspective, was the best bar on any cruise ship I've been to. Maybe the best Disney bar I've been to in general.
Happy accident, right? We showed up a little early.
Yeah.
And the bartenders are like, would you like to have a seat? We sat at there's beautiful windows you can sit in front of. We sat at the bar.
Wasn't a happy, that was a happy accident. It was on my list. My list was, someone was like, there's a $50 cocktail at the Rose. People were talking about it. I was like, well, I have to try this.
Right, so we sat down there. He gets the $50 cocktail. I got a themed drink that was probably $20.
The tea one.
And
Mrs. T.
Just a really engaging bartender. She's very nice, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And then another bartender comes along. She's very knowledgeable as well.
Yeah.
Did we go there after brunch too? We went there 3 times total.
Yeah.
Look, it's the business we're in. We got to try every cocktail on a menu.
They have a lot of
Right, and
signature
there's a lot.
cocktails on their list.
And the bartenders at the Rose,
All of them.
both of them have been there forever. Been at Like at least one of them has been on every single Disney cruise
the
ship.
The third person was great also.
Yeah.
They were all great.
Yeah, there was Jennifer and Nuna and Susan, I think were their names. And they were fantastic. In fact, I'd seen in a Facebook group, someone said, oh, Jennifer is on the Wish. She is the best DCL bartender. I heard she moved to the Wish. I can't wait to go on it. So I know she has a reputation of being a very good bartender.
She clearly had that reputation by the end of the cruise because there were several times where we were the only people at the bar. But then on the last night, we were like, oh, let's shut it down by going to the Rose. When we went, clearly there were other groups that she had made a connection with that all were there to like say goodbye and have one last cocktail. So it doesn't take long for those bartenders in that space to make a connection with people because they're that attentive and personable and great at mixology. Like it's the total package service-wise in that space.
And that's what makes Disney Cruise Line special, I think, is their cast members. And the cast members in the parks and everything in the resorts are wonderful. Yeah. But there's a certain way that they let their guard down a little bit more at Cruise Line because they're international, right? So I have one bartender, and she's from Chile, and she is working in tandem with someone who's from Thailand. They're talking to us from America, and there's these guys from, you know what I mean? It's this very international, slightly more casual, but still professional interaction that you have with these cast members.
I appreciate the servers and there's an honesty which you want from the server. Like the server's not going to tell me, oh, you should leave the bar. It's awful. The server's going to be like, oh, that one cocktail you're ordering, I don't know if you're going to like it. Can I suggest something else? And even if you still want to try it, like the thing I know, like they are able to read the room so well. So the second someone doesn't enjoy a cocktail, you see them, they catch it, and they're like, if you don't like that, I'd be happy to get something else for you, because they know people want to try things, and you may not like it.
And a lot of these cocktails have a little bit of show to them, right? Yeah. Where there's smoke.
Oh, the Rose was with the dome. That was
there's a bubble. The bubbles are big these days, right? It's really cool. There was something. I got something with a teapot.
Mrs. T.
Mrs. T. Yeah. So there's all these cool drinks. There was a weird one that turned purple and had coconut flakes in it. It was really good. And the one that she said, I don't know if you like this. Tom's like, I got to order everything. Tom gets a sip and a half into it. He's like, I don't like it. She's like, I knew you wouldn't.
But see, I didn't say it because I don't like to send things back. But she was really like, she kept asking me. She's like, I know you're not enjoying it. Please let me just take it away. And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
The Rose was the highlight of that and my big Coke can were the highlights of this cruise.
Yeah, so the Rose is not my favorite, vibe or environment.
No.
By the way, you can go to there's a dress code for Palo and for Enchanté where you have to be wearing nice jeans and I think a colored shirt or something.
They still have to be pants, even though it doesn't say it. I got yelled at on the first cruise.
But you can wear shorts and t-shirts in the Rose, which is the shared bar between Enchanté
no dress code
and
there.
Palo. So no dress code there.
There's no food there though, by the way. You can't eat at the Rose.
No. The Rose is wonderful. The vibe I like best is the Keg and Compass.
Does seem like your kind of place.
Right, and I think I could have killed a lot of time there. We just, the way that time worked out, we didn't spend a whole lot of time in there. I really liked Keg and Compass. It was cool. The one I thought I was really going to like was the Bayou.
Yeah.
And the reality was, it looks really cool from outside. It's very alluring. It draws you in. Has flowers hanging from the ceiling. I don't know if you're supposed to be on the underside of a pond. There's lilies in the pond.
They're magnolia trees.
I know, but at some points you're under a lily pad, or there's lily pad lighting.
No, the lily pad lighting was on the other side.
There's some in the corner. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's very inviting, right?
Yeah,
it looks cool.
It's very pretty.
But the longer we were there, the more it was I wish both sides of this weren't completely open to. It feels like you're at a kiosk in the center of a mall, and the traffic is coming in there. That's great for them. Good design to bring people in.
But it's also not, because what we encountered every time I've been there now, I've seen operationally, they are always overwhelmed because it's a lot of seating and it's a funky layout.
They're in the weeds.
They can't seem to figure their way out of it there. It's not a great layout.
On top of probably what is normally already a traffic and staffing issue at that bar, is the fact that we were at Castaway Cay and then it started raining.
Yeah.
So more people than normal probably are pouring back to the ship.
They were the only bar that opened at 3. The only other bar open, I think, was Currents at the adult area.
So it was overwhelmed. It was, I had one drink there that I thought was bad. I had others that I thought
Was
were
it your
good.
Hurricane or the Sazerac?
The Hurricane. I thought the Hurricane was bad. I got the Sazerac was good. I'm sure you like the absinthe thing.
I did.
It just tastes
weird.
like good
The
and plenty
frozen
to me.
absinthe drink. Yeah, very sweet. But I really enjoy it's. I
Tom
just
Corless.
love.
It's very sweet. It's favorite drink. It's very
I
very sweet.
love when the drinks are very much in theme with the place, but also feel special. I know you're happy to just enjoy the environment and have a glass of beer, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just, being this loud theme park person that loves themed entertainment, that's what I like to drink. I like to try weird, different stuff and see what I like.
Yeah.
And the frozen absinthe drink was one of those things where it's like, oh, this is actually very good. Probably bigger than it needs to be. Like, I think it could be a third smaller and people would be happy. It gets to be a bit much by the end, but it's still very good. And then what did I have?
I think they could put up a wall on one side of that, and it'd feel a little bit more intimate.
I'm sure
be a
fire
little cut
code
down on
won't
some of the
allow
noise,
it.
or like a half. So if you look at Luna, Luna has like half walls on the second floor all around. I think you can see in, but you have to go through a door to get in there. And if they did that on one side with maybe some lattice work, it's just something to make it feel a little bit more intimate. And I'm sure we were not there when a live band was playing. I'm sure it would help with the noise because I'm sure that noise is a problem.
Yeah, I think that's why they've kind of cut back on the live entertainment there already.
Nightingales was very nice, interesting. I was unable to crack the ice ball without a tremendous amount of effort with the hammer they give you.
My favorite was the first time we ordered it, someone was already playing the piano, and so it makes a noise. It's a metal hammer on a big solid sphere of ice. So it makes you could hear it. And so at some point I realized, I'm going to have to just do this in rhythm with the music as if I'm clapping along. And people in the bar are dying while I'm doing this.
I felt like an idiot trying to crack this ice ball. I couldn't. And you're videotaping me, by the way. And then I didn't feel so bad because the server came and they couldn't do it either.
She couldn't do it either.
She's like, oh, wow, this ice
that's
ball
a
looks
bad
like
one,
an
but she's like, at
abnormally
least the
strong
liquid came
ice
out,
ball.
so you're good. So with all these, I know we're quickly talking about the drinks. We are going to publish reviews with thoughts on every single one of the drinks. So if there's a certain cocktail we haven't talked about, it will be on the site.
It will be.
Yeah.
There's the Cove Bar up in the adult
Cove
area.
Cafe.
There's Cove Cafe and there's Cove Bar. They are two
No, it's
separate.
Currents.
No,
Isn't it?
Currents is on the aft
area.
area.
It's a different bar.
And Cove is up at the front.
So the Cove bar is behind the Infinity.
Or the Cove car is
Infinity-
aft. Whichever one
It's
is.
behind the Infinity pool.
Yeah. The Cove bar.
the end,
That weird Caribbean, it's supposed to be like a mule, but it had an IPA poured into it. I don't know. It's weird.
That's pretty bad.
You got the Dole Whip thing.
My
That was
Dole Whip
good.
cocktail was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we went to Cove Cafe, which I think is a nice coffee spot. I know people in general are mad about it.
It's way hidden.
Yeah,
It's super hidden.
The that whole section on the back is messed up. The layout's awful. The weird tiny hot tub on the side that doesn't really have a nice view of anything. I talked enough about the infinity pool last time. But do you agree with the assessment? Everyone's like the top few decks. The pools are too small. Things are laid out funny. It's
so much
wacky.
is laid out funny on this
Yeah.
show. The top decks in particular, right? But it's just I felt it was just a little weird. Like everyone else, I dislike the elevator situation, right? Having two banks of elevators, I think, is a mistake. Having those buttons that are so sensitive to the touch, where anybody can hit every button. And this is it goes up to 14 decks on certain
It was better
areas.
this cruise. I think enough people have heard about it now to where everyone's aware and is like, I'm not going near the buttons.
I love that there's a lot to explore. There's a lot to do on this ship. Maybe it's because it was a 3-night. I will say on the smaller ships like the Magic, after a day, you've got to figure it out. You know your way around, and the ship starts to feel like home. The Magic feels like home.
Yeah.
This felt like I was a guest at a big hotel, right? This didn't feel personal. This felt like an art exhibition and a big kind of foreboding hotel. And I think maybe going again, maybe you feel a little bit better about it. No, I'm going to have to go on it again because my significant other is a Cinderella freak.
Yeah.
She loves Cinderella and all this stuff. She's going to have to see all this.
Yeah.
We met people who unsolicited were giving us their opinion now. And like I said, I think it's fine. I'm more about the itinerary, right? So I probably won't be on. I'll go on the Wish again.
Yeah.
Because I need to for the Cinderella stuff. But I don't see a time when it's going to be having the kind of itineraries I want, which are going to be things like Alaska, British Isles, Mediterranean, Norway.
I don't think this is the ship I want to spend 7 days on.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like there are a few things that are wonderful. Like Arendelle is amazing, right? And the entertainment on the boat, and there's a couple of really great bars. But I don't like the pools, so I don't really. That's a big component that's taken out of the equation. Is that the pools are not great.
What
The
about
layout's
the
funky.
Aqua Mouse?
I mean, it's nice that the wait time was shorter than quoted, but I'm still not a fan.
It was 45-minute wait.
Yeah, it was 60
for a 2-minute water
posted,
slide.
but they were doing okay. I still think it's dumb. I think you lost a lot of fun things. Like you lost the little mini golf and like I don't know this ship. Oh, I did the inflatable obstacle course.
Tom ran the
course,
Incredibles obstacle course.
and I think I almost died. That was fun. You know, like I know it is just a big inflatable thing, but it was a nice change of pace. It was something different. I know a lot of people but again, like this, the way they changed that recreation space. Some people on that day were like, "Oh, we're going to go shoot basketball," and we were like, "You can't. There's a giant inflatable obstacle course in the way." And they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And so I think that was nice on the other ships was that those courts are just there. And then the mini golf was back there, and then everything's kind of separated and doesn't interfere with each other. I know it's great to have an air-conditioned space, and they can use that for like the different age groups and lock it off. And I get operationally why the changes were made. I don't think it works. I think in theory it was smart, and then once you see it operating on the ship, it's like, nope, doesn't work. So that's why I think this ship, no matter what
do you think they should have done with that space?
I think it should just be what it was before.
Open air basketball?
Yeah. I get that they want to use it like for the teen group and all. I understand that. And I understand people are like, oh, we want an air-conditioned space. But again, the thing that keeps getting pointed out to me that I believe more and more, and we talked about in the last review, how this is the upcharge ship. They really wanted to focus on, we're going to add all these concierge rooms and a bigger concierge lounge, and we're going to, give all this space to the spa and blah, blah, blah. It feels like this is also like the events ship. Like when they book big groups, they have a bunch of things to sell them. One of those things is like, oh, you can rent that. We can lock off this action zone or hero zone. We can lock this off because it's a sealed venue, so we can sell that to the group, right? We have all these event venues. We have Tritons and Luna, and we can lock those off, and you can sell that to the event, and they can use that during certain periods. That's how it feels to me at times, and that, again, the focus was on things they have not been able to do as far as upcharges on the other ships, that it was like, okay, this is the time. And that's Bob Chapek's focus. It was his focus when he was in charge of Parks and Resorts, which is when the boat got approved. That's very much what that regime was all about, was adding the dessert parties and tours and, all these events and packages and add-on things to the park experience. And so the cruise is no different. There was this focus on, we'll get them with the rates, but then we'll really get them on the ship when you could add this on and add that on and do this and do that. And this does feel like the Bob Chapek ship. It is, because it's not a bad ship. And I don't think anyone's going to go on there and have a terrible cruise. I just think it's the worst ship in the fleet. It's the least fun ship. It's the least logical ship. And I know thematically the boats are going to change for the next two in the Triton class, but supposedly layout-wise, they're not really supposed to be radically different. But maybe it's not late enough in the game where maybe someone will re-examine that. But my favorite thing is this book, The Making a Disney Wish, which is the making of the ship. My favorite thing is there's a chapter in here. I'm going to find it. Let's find it here.
While you look, I'll just interject and say that multiple cast members told me it's their favorite ship they've been on, because I think their living conditions are maybe improved from what they are on some of the older ships. That's worth something. That's
great. We don't see, the problem is what we don't see as guests, we can't react to, right? I think that's the problem. So my favorite thing here is there's a chapter called If it ain't broke, fix it anyway.
Oops.
Yeah, right? That's the problem. And they talk about this boxology thing where it's about like, oh, we basically emptied the ship and we had to put everything back in, and it's this art of putting everything back in a way that works. I just don't think they did it. I don't think the boat layout makes sense, and I think there were some choices that were made that were short-sighted, which I hope they'll address for the next. Again, like, I'm not going to tell you not to go on this ship. I think it's enjoyable. I think, again, we've talked about several things that I would go back on this ship for. I just, again, like if you told me like, oh, you're finally gonna do a 7-night, what boat are you gonna go on? I'd be like, in a million years, I'm not doing the 7-night on that. I'll do it on any of the 4 other ones, but I don't. This isn't the one that best fits my needs. And maybe, I mean, let us know in the comments if it fits your needs, if you like this ship better. Maybe if you have small kids or something like that. But we talked to people with kids on the boat, and they have a lot of the same thoughts we had, and it wasn't really going well for them either. So I don't know. And I know so many of you gave us your thoughts on the bottom of the first review, the comments in the first review, too.
We had the guy, we're just going through customs.
Yeah.
I don't even think he knew you were a blogger.
Yeah.
He's just how'd y'all do? You like it and everything? And we said, oh, we liked it. We had a good time. And he's like, oh, we're concierge. He's like, let me tell you, I will never do concierge on this ship again. And he said the areas are bigger and nicer and better, but I just didn't like it as much.
And they're concierge lifers, which is a thing. And like Disney Cruise Line, I jokingly say a lot of the time, it's kind of like a cult. It's a good cult to be in. But they are. They're very set in their ways, and they have their beliefs, and it's concierge people are always concierge people. They don't go if they can't get concierge. And so for someone like that to come to you and be like, like it wasn't the concierge experience I've had on all the other ships, I think it was kind of a downgrade, to me says something's wrong. To me says something didn't go right.
I know we don't really have an outline we're going by, right?
No,
so this might
never.
be backtracking. One thing you did not cover in the last review that I think is interesting are the 2 cinemas, the Neverland and the Wonderland.
One wasn't done.
They are beautiful.
They're cool.
I think they're both cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
They're worth checking out. We didn't go see movies in them. They were showing some movies.
Just go open house first day. Just go in there and take photos. Like the Neverland one is adorable. It's very cute. But Wonderland, I went in there and I was like, this is so cool. Like every light fixture is a different Cheshire cat. Every sconce, and he's in a different pose.
The doorknob.
The doorknob is the talking doorknob from the film, and the seat backs are the playing cards, and it was
very thoughtful.
Space.
Somebody really understood Disney fans that did that theater, I think.
I think it's a good change, too, that they went to 2 smaller movie theaters, because every time I've seen a movie on the ship, one of 8 people. So not only that, you have 2 smaller venues, but then also you can show more different things.
You can rent those out.
You can have also, but again, you're absolutely right. That is what it's for. But again, like you can be like, all right, let's play something that's more for kids. In Wonderland tonight, we'll show Lightyear and Moana. And then in the other theater, we can show a Marvel movie, right? So like, I get that. I think that's one of the changes they made where I'm like, that's a good change. That makes a lot of sense. Luna. Those games like Match Your Mate and that stuff, and the new karaoke thing we went and sat through, those are popular things. So to have this 2-floor venue with tiered seating, and then the nice bigger venue Tritons for some of the trivia and stuff, those are nice upgrades too. There are places where it's apparent someone really looked at what the experience was like on the other ships and was like, here's how we fix those experiences. But then, like the money people came in, and it's like, all right, concierge senses this, this, and this. We have to make these changes to maximize profits. And it is that battle of creative people who want to improve upon what was done before versus money people who want to make more money than was made before. And that's kind of the current battle of Imagineering versus the executives in the company. And we're seeing that play out not only here, we're seeing that play out in a lot of projects.
Yeah. Overall, my impressions were not negative. I didn't have a bad experience.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I didn't pay a dime. It was on the company. Which meant
I did pay, and we had a good time, but we have to sit here and assess this for people that are going to spend their hard-earned money. and tell them honestly, should they or shouldn't they? The truth is, like, again, I understand. I like to do the new stuff and not have that FOMO, that fear of missing out. So you're probably watching this, most of you watching this are probably like, I want to go on the ship at some point. And my job is not to talk you out of that. My job is to tell you how to best spend that time and to give you a proper expectation of what this ship is.
And if I had paid, I would have tried to get a better bed.
Yeah.
Because I was on the couch bed. And the couch bed is about the size of this love seat I'm sitting on. No, it's actually, I measured it. It's 5 feet 9 inches with hard, like, arms that are straight vertical.
My parents
I'm
didn't
5'10". So, and the way they make that bed, it's like you're tucked in there like a tight burrito, right? So
tight burrito.
So I mentioned I had a year and a half of sea time. Yeah. I might be able to get somebody to put a picture of one of my accommodations aboard the USS Shreveport. Pretty tight, but you know what? My feet, it was long enough for me, and my feet could hang over the edge if I was too tall. That wasn't an option here, right? It was uncomfortable. The bed itself wasn't that bad, but the actual dimensions of it.
It does seem unreasonable when each person costs like $1,200 on the 3-night cruise. It does seem unreasonable that everyone can't have a comfortable bed. They've had these sofas for a long time. They know that they're not great. So it's something that maybe should be fixed in a soft goods refurbishment or something of the sort down the line.
I mean, there's not a ton of space. If you watch your room review, your feet can barely fit through the opening to get into the room in the first place.
That's just poor design. It just means like some rooms didn't matter to them, right?
Well, the thing is, yes, space is a premium. But in so many areas on the cruise ship, it is not designed as if space is at a premium. In fact, there is so much wasted space on this ship, just in the Great Hall. The Grand Hall
did not need to be, it was a statement, right? It's like, well, we have to build the biggest one ever so we can say that, right? And it didn't need to be that big.
Tons of wasted space.
Yeah.
And that could have given me a couch that was 1 inch longer.
Yeah.
So
it would have made a big difference to someone, right? Like that's... Yeah. Well, is there anything we haven't talked about? I don't know. Have we covered the entire...
I mean, we can go on and on because we really did have a great time, but that's because it's hard to not have a good time on Disney Cruise Line, right?
They know what they're doing. You're not going to have
a great job.
You're not going to have a bad time. It's just you may not have as good of a time as you will on the other 4 boats. I think that's like when people ask me what Disney World hotel should I stay at. Like just because I named 2 or 3, that doesn't mean the other ones are bad. It just means that these 3 are better than the other ones. And if you've stayed at these 3, next time when you do stay at one of those other ones, maybe you're going to be like, oh, I wish I just stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge again. That was amazing.
Maybe a good way to look at this is that it's the Riviera.
It's the Riviera Resort of the sea.
It's the Riviera Resort of Cruise Line. And if you're a person that really likes Riviera, you might like this. And I don't mean stylistically. I just mean metaphorically, where this is the new, expensive, upgraded, but in many ways not an improvement option. Yeah. So, you know, I think there are 4 other fantastic ships on this in this fleet. I don't feel like this sets itself above any of them. No. That's the thing, right? Like when the Dream and the Fantasy debuted, everyone went on about this is what a giant leap forward. Right. And this is not. At the very least, it's a very lateral move, where the changes again were just mostly focused on money. You know. Yeah. That's what it feels like. Yeah. But yeah. Well. Thank you for watching. If you haven't watched the first review, there are plenty of things we didn't cover this time because I talked about them at length in the first Disney Wish review. So make sure you go back and watch that if you haven't. But if you guys have any other questions, let us know in the comments. We probably can answer them in some posts on the site. Something like that will point you in the right direction. But thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button. Please subscribe for more Disney Cruise Line content. We'll keep it coming. You guys seem to really like it, so I think we're going to do more of it down the road. If you want to support great content like this and other great content from us, you can join the WDWNT Inner Globe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon. Bye, everybody. Keep drinking out my giant Coke can.